this position of treasurer, that means we're going to have a financial officer in lieu of that position. Is that what you're saying? In other
Correct.
words,
There would be a finance director instead of a tax collector and treasurer.
okay, so there's a lot of reasons why we should or should not do this, okay? I agree that we can get an elected official that is 16 or 18 years old and do this spot. This township in the last 12 months, to be quite honest, has been a really blank show with experience and the problems we got our mess into, and you can't guarantee that an elected official is going to do it right or wrong. It doesn't make a difference. We are in this mess because somewhere between the commissioners and the mayor and the epidemic, something wasn't done. And the end result was that we lost money, and we don't know how. I don't know if the consumer or the resident, including myself, would understand that the day we would vote this in, that position is gone, and now I'm going to hire somebody to fill that slot that does not guarantee me a qualified person. Jack is one of a kind. You may not get another Jack, okay? You may get another previous tax collector. That's not the reason to have the referendum, because there's no guarantee. Our township, in my opinion, broke down between the commissioners, the mayor, and the treasurers, where nobody was overlooking what happened. And it was explained to me that because of our home rule charter, we have a strong mayor position. I don't mean Mike, I mean the charter. So therefore, the commissioners really couldn't go into her office to find out exactly what was going on. They had no right to do that. Is that correct? That's what it was explained to me. Anybody?
No, I mean, I just wanted to make, so the township has what is generally referred to as a strong mayor form, as
Yes.
opposed to the more traditional first-class township form, which is the strong commissioner form. The
Right, it's
commission-
reverse.
right. So, the problem I have with the way you put it is that the tax collector is a separate public official.
That's
So
true.
it's not simply because the township has a strong mayor form of government. It's that there's a separate person who is the tax collector who runs that office and is, just like the board, a public official.
So what I don't understand is that as a resident, we came up short based on what happened between the commissioners, the treasurer's office, and the mayor. I'll refer to those as the three. When you decide to eliminate this position and put in a financial officer, who is going to be in charge of that person? Is it the mayor or the commissioners?
Mr. Schneider, I can clarify things here. First of all, what you have to understand is the treasurer is a sole elected position.
I understand
It's a
that.
totally outside office that's set aside from the Board of Commissioners and the mayor's office. Now, the problem that came about here was the mayor happened to be the brother of the sister who was our elected treasurer.
Excuse me, stop there.
Yes.
It doesn't make a difference as a brother or not, because what I'm talking about is the system and person A, B, or C. I don't care if
Well,
it
it does,
was or wasn't.
because this was a unique situation.
Okay.
I asked the mayor to recuse himself of anything that had to do with this because he was the brother and she was the sister. To clarify things as far as this new position, the reason why we're trying to do this is you never know what you're gonna get. And this has nothing against Mrs. Corrin whatsoever. We had no idea that Mrs. Corrin was even gonna run when this proposal was being
I understand.
The reason why we're creating this position is to protect the citizens of Whitehall against any nefarious actions by a public official, because we never know who that future public official may be.
But you don't know
Although
who the person you're
people-
going to hire either. See,
Yes, we do. We have control over it because that position will be advertised, it will be interviewed, and there will be requirements for that position. And we will
Yes.
have the ability as a board, the mayor will have the ability as the mayor, and the administration will have the ability to have oversight of that position. So if something nefarious does take place, we can remove that person, prosecute them justly, take whatever necessary employment actions we can take legally against them, and hold them accountable for their actions. Right now, with an elected official, unless it's a felony, and I'm not saying that an elected
No.
official did anything wrong here, but what I'm getting at is, we don't have the ability to remove an elected official if something wrong is taking place in that office.
You're making a major change to our system by eliminating a treasurer, okay? And you're gonna hire somebody, and you're doing it for the purposes that you have control. I see it as, it makes sense, and I understand why, okay? You have quicker control. But you all had control when this was going on, and it felt, you shake your head, when the end of the year came, I'm trying to focus on going forward, not backwards. You had the right to do a treasurer's report or an audit at different times, and you maybe never did it. When the
No,
transfer.
we did do it. We had a forensic accounting ordered, and we had a forensic accounting done.
When you're sitting here saying that you will never find out the amount of money. I look at Mrs. Corrin and say, you sent out 9,134 garbage bills. Well, it's pretty simple. If it's $500 per garbage bill, we should have collected an X number of dollars. It's that simple. It's 2 + 2 is 4. Now I go and look at the tax bill, the garbage thing, and said, what revenue did I get? If I got in, I'm going to use round numbers, if I was entitled to get $1 million and I got 975, there's 25K I can't account for. But let's say it's 750. Well, that's a hell of a big difference, and I would go look for that amount of money. So to sit down and say that you can't get an official audit, I would agree that you cannot make the standards of accounting, the GAAP arrangement, but you can at least sit down and figure out a ballpark of what you think you lost through this process. You can. You have to. You know the amount that you can. Now, you can't figure out earned income tax because you don't know what I earned this year. But on a garbage tax bill, you do know 9,100 went out and so many should come in. That's simple. But I don't understand what the motivation is. Is the motivation because of the problem we had, and that's why we want to do this major change? And if we do make the change, does that mean that on November the 15th, election occurs, and on January the 1st, she's no longer there? Is that what happens? Or is it a phase out?
This will be at the end of her tenure. This does not replace her next year or the following year. This referendum will be put on a ballot, the people will vote, but this will not go into effect till her office is over.
Okay, I didn't understand that,
Yes.
so that's what happens.
Yes. And this in no way reflects on Mrs. Corrin. This action started way before we even knew she was going to come forward and run for this office. So this in no way reflects on her or her abilities. What we're trying to do is protect the citizens in this township from a future bad public official. So this board and the mayor has control, and we can hire people with a financial background and the wherewithal, because I'll be honest with you, when I got on this board 7 years ago, we had just north of a $20 million budget. We're sitting south of a $30 million budget. So every year, the budget in this township, as the township gets larger, expenses go up. There's a lot of moving
So
pieces.
I guess my problem is the way you're selling it. You're selling it to protect. It sounds like that if you're going to go out to our community and say the reason we're doing this so we don't get a bad public official, that's not the case at all, because I can get a bad someone else. What you're saying to me really is that we need to have a check and balance in that is controllable, where they can be hired by the Board of Commissioners or approved by the Board of Commissioners and hired by the mayor or the deputy mayor. That's what you're doing.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with what happened before.
No.
And see, all the time it keeps coming up, well, in case we get this or in case we get that. It's totally irrespectable. It is, the reason is what I just stated. And I think if you're going to try to sell it for whatever your reasons are, then you got to sell it that way, because it always comes back to the fact that we have better control. Well, if we had better control, we may not have some of the problems we have in this building right now.
Correct.
If I
Okay?
may say really quick.
Yes.
Okay. The position will be appointed by the mayor. It will then be approved by the board. So if the mayor were to put someone forward the board does not like or does not think is qualified, the board can vote it down.
Check and balance.
Yes.
Okay. But I think if you're going to approach this going forward, I think you have to sell it different than what you're
No, I
selling.
agree, and we intend on doing public outreach. If we get this if we're successful getting this referendum, now I can't say that we're
We
gonna get the
understand that.
vote.
So then my next question is, she has asked for an audit to figure out what's going on. Why can't, not using the word audit, when will you tell us as residents really what the hell's going on with the amounts and different things? I hear all kinds of rumors that we
Mr.
know the
Schneider,
amounts.
we'll
Someone's-
never have the ability to give you a true number because the aggregate wasn't there. The ex-public official did not keep the records that we need to come to a clear accounting of exactly what happened. The forensic accountants indicated that, RKL, the new auditing firm, indicated that. That's why they cannot perform this reconciliation
And it's
audit.
all under garbage tax, is that correct?
Most of it is.
Where else would it be if it's not the garbage tax, may I ask?
It could be per capita, it could have been
Okay.
any smaller amounts. The problem is when the forensic audit was done, that, they go through and they see how many questionable bills and who didn't pay their garbage. We send confirmation notices out to 1,000 people. Buck Nolasicki did. And they get maybe 150 responses back out of the 1,000 that they send. You're never gonna know whether or not there were people out there that, I'll pay it again. I don't know, I thought I paid it, but maybe I didn't.
So my mom was part of this deal, so I understand what's going on. She got a notice that said that you didn't pay your tax bill, and she did, okay? I understand that there are other people that they got this notices and say they did not. So I'm assuming that if you sent your 1,000 out, on your tax rolls, there's 9,000, I'm gonna use 9,000 properties. You collected taxes for 9,000 households, yes or no? And if you didn't, then they ended up going down to the courthouse and work its way through the tax collection process at the sheriff. Is that correct?
Well, actually, they go to Portnoy, our collection agency. and
Okay.
Portnoy cannot send, under
I know.
statute, they cannot send delinquent notices out on a questionable list, which is why the forensic audit had to be done and the confirms had to be sent out to the delinquent taxpayers, because they cannot go after people and tell them that they.
They did, but they did. They sent the letters out, and however you come up with that thing.
Portnoy didn't.
Whoever did. So when you ended this year of the tax year, and you have 9,000 properties, you must have a list of saying there's 2,000 people who did not pay their tax bill.
They have a paid and unpaid list.
And in the
yeah.
unpaid list, what's the status of the unpaid list, may I ask? Because the school district collected on their bond, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, they collected on the bond because it was taxes, but I was told that we can't collect on our bond because it wasn't taxes.
It was almost all garbage, yes.
So my question to you guys is, you're a tax collector as an example, or a resident, and you pay your school tax, your county, and your local municipality. But for some reason, your school tax got lost, and they found this out through whatever it was, and you did that. How many are on the township side like that? Because if this person was doing this, they were doing it consistently, whether it was a school tax season or whether it was the other season. So to sit here and say that we don't know, I don't understand, because we do know. We do know that there's 9,000 properties that should have paid 3 taxes in this arrangement. Is that correct, Mrs. Corn? And then on that list, if there's 100 people who did not pay, you know who they are. Is that correct? So my question is, when the other tax collector left, how many people were on that list that did not pay their taxes? But it has to.
But
Yes.
Just because I've been through this.
Okay.
All right. He just told you that most of it is garbage. It's a whole different ballgame from collecting real estate taxes. And you don't, that's what I'm saying. People go ahead and they go, I pay my garbage tax. No, you paid a garbage fee. It sounds like a little tiny thing.
I understand.
But if most of it came under that, now you have a lot of different things that impact that because, well, some of these places, because it's a rental, they are not gonna be paying.
Okay.
They're paying the real estate taxes, but they're gonna have another place come in and collect their garbage.
Commissioner Slonka, I understand.
Or you're gonna have people that get the tax exemption for the fee
I-
exemption. You're gonna have the people that get the lower amount.
But there's
because-
records for that.
And there is, but what I tried to say earlier was that when people come in and there's somebody nefarious that is working in that room, all they do is go like this, oh, here, thank you, Mr. Smith, and it goes here. There's nothing there.
Let me tell you-
It's as though nothing ever transpired.
Mr. Sloniker, I had a bookkeeper that embezzled from me, so I understand the process.
I'm just
And
saying,
I've always
but-
said,
but
if you're a crook, you're a crook, there's nothing you can do about it. But the records in this township, if the school district collected on their bond, and I asked the question last time when we had this conversation, how much was it? And the answer I think I got was, that was the school situation on what they collected on bond and asked them, okay? Now, she works for both of them under our payroll. Somebody in this building should be able to tell me how much the taxes were missing on the school board side. And it's not the school board, because she works as an independent arrangement sitting in this room tonight. They can answer this question. Why is this not being answered?
And again, he pretty much told you that most of it is in garbage, not
But,
necessarily.
I-
I'm talking about the school, what the school
Yes.
district, they have that amount, that was in Buck Nolasicki's audit.
And what was that amount, may I ask?
I don't know.
Does anybody know?
It was somewhere.
14,000.
Some thousand.
Yeah, 40, yeah.
Exact dollar.
But they only went after 14 or 17,000 of the bond. So I don't know. I don't know what the school district did. All I know is that they collected, or they tried to collect on the bond.
So you can understand with me sitting here, I don't know, doesn't really cut it from.
Well, no.
No,
the
hear me
school
out.
district- I have no information on that.
You- The tax collector collects the money and gives it to the school director, school board, correct? So that office does know what the heck's going on. Am I right? I mean, you can't just sit here and say, we don't know. You do know. Now, first time I'm hearing 15. I've heard as high as 125. I've heard as high as 75,000 it was
The
missing.
15,000 that I'm referring to, I believe it was 14,000 that the bond, that the school district went after for the bond,
Okay.
okay? That's the number that I just put out there.
How do we as a township put this thing to rest once and for all, besides just saying, it is what it is and don't worry about it?
We're never gonna reconcile this. This is gonna be a mystery for the future.
But no, we've gone beyond this. I mean.
I know you have.
We've gone and gotten what Buck Nolasicki's audit said, okay, this is what, our response has been to the confirms, this is what we feel. Portnoy went out and sent out their delinquent notices for, I believe it was 2018 and 2019 in the same year. And we got a lot of that money back in. But I've moved on from it, and from the administrative end.
I would
we
think you would.
can't. Yeah.
So I'm on the thing for the budget. So I'm just totally baffled that someone can't sit down and say, we expected X number of dollars in, and here's what we got in. I don't care what profession you guys are in. Your law firm, we're expecting not so much coming in in retainage, and here's what we got. How much we're getting in fees and engines. So much, when you run a business, that's what happens. I have an anticipated income coming in. So there's an anticipated income coming in, and what did I receive? That doesn't require a gap arrangement. That is basic.
But the problem with garbage.
Did anybody
is it
ask that
has
question?
Such a high, in fact, Treasurer Corn was just saying, she'd like to see the garbage revenues be a little bit higher. We have a very high delinquency rate. You have a very high discount rate. I'd say,
I'm assuming you go after the delinquency?
well, sure we do, but we would not, especially during the time period when this was all being done, it wouldn't have been absolutely noticeable when you're collecting 1.2 million if you fell $50,000 less, because it could have been the delinquents that they sent, a higher delinquency rate that you sent on to Portnoy to collect. I mean, garbage isn't just like real estate with a face amount. You have a lot of discounts of the 25% for the seniors. You have total discounts. You have non-payments. You have people who do pay in discount, which is another 2% off. So,
Again, I don't understand your system, but if you have a garbage bill coming in with $1,000 that is due, and you get a 20% discount, your accounting system would show you received in $800, and $200 went to the discount, you balance out to 1,000. It's still 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't change, folks. It just doesn't change. You can't lose that money unless your accounting system doesn't allow that. Because when I bring $1 into my office, and if I gave you a discount, I have to show where that discount went. Otherwise, my books don't balance. That's all I'm saying.
And that's all good if you have books.
And I gather that's the
That was
arrangement.
the biggest problem.
Okay, and
You didn't have a good, legitimate set of books. You have to understand, the police couldn't get to the bottom of it. The forensic accountants couldn't get to the bottom of it after months. You had the district attorney look at it.
County
You had the
detectives.
FBI in here for a short period of time. I mean, we went through everything, Ken. Honest to God, we went through everything that we possibly could, reach out from this board. Again, we couldn't reach deep into that we couldn't go into that treasurer's office and demand this and that. That's a separate elected official. We're asking for books every month. Every month I'm asking for books and different numbers and accounts, and we're finding out that half of those were shivved.
And you're
The
saying,
numbers we were
you're
getting
saying the
never even
referendum,
tried because there were no books.
so then what you're saying under this new referendum, that this position and the tax office as we know it will be rolled into where?
This finance director's position will basically take over as the elected treasurer's position that we will have oversight on and we can control. And it will be somebody with the wherewithal and financial practices, okay? That will be a requirement of the job. And we will have the ability to hire and fire and oversee that person's work to protect the revenue collected on behalf of the residents of Whitehall Township.
and I would agree with you, Ken. For one issue, just with one treasurer, to change the whole system, I think it would be wrong. I think you have to look at the totality, and I'm just looking at 33 years of experience here.
Yes.
Where I've had good treasurers, bad treasurers, and okay treasurers.
Yes.
And I look at it as which way, how would the people best be served? And I think that I have my opinions on it, but I think it's up to the people to decide how they want their government done.
And the point of my discussion tonight is that it needs to be explained to the residents
I agree.
that way, not that we get incompetent people like we had in the past.
Absolutely.
Because
That's
I
the
don't,
wrong reason to
I
do it.
don't think, I don't know if Mrs. Gober is incompetent or whatever the arrangements are, because nobody in this room knows exactly what happened, and to associate those two together is wrong, in my opinion.
I agree.
We may have that conversation privately, but in this room, it's wrong. And that's all I'm saying. So when you keep saying those statements, it's not a proven fact. That's all I'm saying.
Agree.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Pelagian, please come forward.
Rob Pelagian, 415 Oakwood Drive. As, I guess, an agitator who's been agitating over this topic for a couple of years now, I'd just like to wrap up with a few comments. Number one, and I understand Mr. Snyder's frustrations, and I think it can be summed up in the word integrity. I use a phrase often with my clients and other fellow engineers to not apply logic to an illogical situation. And unfortunately, the political system as it sits now, that may be remedied by this referendum moving forward for the residents and the electorate in the township to vote on, may be corrected, because there are no qualifications on the integrity or the moral values of the individuals who are running for office. Everybody sitting there, I couldn't tell you your integrity or moral values. I know some of you very well. Some of you I don't know very well at all. And that's all my personal opinion. But the fact of the matter is, this referendum could help resolve that issue by at least the check and balance of just the electorate removing someone from this position is now going to be in the hands of at least the administration, in theory, and the elected officials, the Board of Commissioners. So in that respect, I think it's a great idea to move it forward. My only concern, and I brought this up at the workshop, and I appreciate receiving a copy of the ordinance, and I have the utmost respect for Mrs. Corrin. I've got to know Mrs. Corrin very well, mostly because I've been shooting my mouth off even before she was in there, and we've had discussions when I've come in, and I know the efforts that she's put in correcting the mismanagement of that tax office. And we can all say that at a minimum, regardless of who was in there before, and it's not a personal attack, it was mismanaged, bottom line. And she's obviously done an excellent job correcting that. That being said, there is one deficiency, I think, in this resolution, and that is that I think there should be an amendment that instead of just the MBA, the education requirements, that equivalent experience be added to it. Because I think Mrs. Corrin is well qualified based on the nonsense that she's had to deal with so far since she's been in there. I think she's more than qualified.
It's not in there.
Nothing in the ordinance that requires.
No, there's NBME.
There's
But-
no specific MBA.
Okay, so as long as it just shows financial background.
The mayor would suggest we would approve. And
Okay.
if we looked at their background and we were happy with it and sufficient. we
Okay,
could get
because
it.
I know that had been tossed around before. There were comments about an MBA or a degree in financial.
We debated that point actually pretty heavily.
Okay, good.
So,
Well, I personally hope that Mrs. Corrin would, if this referendum moves forward, that she would put her name in front, because I think she deserves it, especially with the amount of work that she's dedicated to this. So with that, my request is that you move this forward. Thank you.
thank you, Rob.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Ginder?
In 2020, I became president of the board and I inherited this mess. And from what was going on in the tax office and the missing money. Had 2 long years of dealing with it, trying to get to the bottom. Trying to find out how close we could get the money, how close we could get the accounting. Between fluorescent accountants, auditing, district attorneys, police departments, and everybody else, we went as far as we absolutely could. We left nothing unturned. Every avenue that was possible, we put this township through, trying to get accountability into this. The forensic accountants gave us a list of 10 things to be done in that tax office to tighten it up. Everything from you don't share passwords to you don't share keys to this, to just simple things like this. And we had a devil of a time getting that done. The cooperation just wasn't happening. And I'm not going to get into persons or personalities or anything else. We just couldn't even get done with the forensic accountants told us were simple things to get it tightened up. I want to read a short sentence I wrote. This ordinance demonstrates the evolution and adaptability of government in providing tax money accountability to the residents and taxpayers of Whitehall Township. Change is inevitable. We need to get how we account for tax dollars and tax payments into the 21st century. We're not collecting $3 million a year anymore. We're collecting almost $30 million a year just in the township. The school district's probably $60 million.
Oh, my God, no.
And probably more. We need to change the way we're doing things, or else we're asking for it. We were very fortunate for Mrs. Corrin to come in here and be elected as the next tax collector. Will that happen again with the next time an election comes up? Do we roll the dice? Or do we try and go forward and get this behind us and know that we've done the best we can and we have the best systems that we know of going forward. And I think that's what the residents of this township and the taxpayers deserve. They deserve to know, yeah, we had trouble, and I read a statement in January of 2021 about what all happened. So it is no secret. That statement's on public record. I do not have it with me tonight. But that statement can be read from the minutes of January 2021, when most of the findings had come together at that point. I just lost my whole train of thought. But we need to do better. This is a way of doing better. This board does not have control. This was put together by our attorney with comments here and there in legal and legislative. This allows the residents to say, yes, we want better, or no, we're happy the way it is, we'll take our chances in the future. It's that simple. This is not the board's only vote tonight is to get this on a referendum. It has to go to the county and be written that it gets on the ballot and the voters can vote on it. When that'll be, could be next year the primary, could be next year in the fall election. But that will be the voters' choice. I think doing more than that, I don't know how you can do any more than that, than to let the voters make the final decision. And that's all I have to say for now on this.
Okay. Any other comments on this subject?
Well, I guess I have to speak up. I've been on this board, I've been in that position, I've been the controller. All I know is when I was the treasurer, when the county decided that they were not gonna have collections at the different municipalities, it was all gonna be going either straight down there, sent out in the mail. All I had for 2 years was complaints. Well, why did they do this? Why did they do that? And again, the more you remove people from the ability to talk to an elected official, that's where you start losing everybody. And it seems like such a little thing, but you had to actually be there to hear people complain that. And that's all they wanted to do. They wanted questions answered. And I didn't have a lot of answers for them because it was the county. But I was that conduit that they could go ahead and say, okay, this guy here listened to me. He told me to do this, so maybe I'll do that. But now, again, we're even trying to remove this from the most local of all types of representation. And again, it just, and I know the answer, most people say, well, you know, you can come to these meetings just like you people have come here tonight. Well, it doesn't happen that often that people come to meetings. You can find all kinds of reasons to complain, but you're not necessarily going to show up. And it was said here before that you might have had 1 or 2 not so good treasurers, but you've had other ones that were more than just okay. And all I'm saying is I look at it as another form of having the public actually get to talk to somebody that they're handing their money over to. So, and again, listen, I had all of the same kind of, well, this is better because of this and this and this. But when it comes down to certain things, to me, that interaction between a resident and their government, I think is very important. So that's all I have.
Any more comments? Mr. Secretary, poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher. Aye. Commissioner Swaniker, nay. Commissioner, Fisher.
Oh, you did him.
Aye.
I
Tia.
did, I'm sorry, Tia.
Only one left.
No,
Yes.
there's another one, but he's so much higher.
Yes.
Okay, and President.
Yes.
Okay. And that passes 4 ayes, 1 nay.
Okay, courtesy of the floor. Mr. Sloniger?
Okay, Robert Peligian, name and address, please.
Hey, you had your chance.
Yeah, I'll keep keep it brief. Rob Pelagian, 415 Oakwood Drive. Just wondering what the status is of the sexual harassment charges against the mayor. I understood that the mediation was supposed to be between the last meeting and this meeting.
I will defer to Solicitor Gross.
There's no legal comment at this time, Mr. Pelagian. I'd prefer not to say anything more than that, President Marks.
Did the mediation take place?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes.
And there was an outcome?
I'm not going to comment any further on that.
Okay.
Well, I will. As soon as results are in and everything legal is tied up and agreements are signed, then we can publicly speak about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Berman,
Mr. Berman,
I guess he might have been one of the.
you tired him out?
Kathy Gansey,
Please come forward, ma'am.
get name and address.
3794 Dogwood Drive in
Yeah, if you could
Whitehall.
speak into the microphone. Thank you.
My name's Kathy Gansey, 3794 Dogwood Drive, Whitehall. And this is my husband, Robert. And we are here because the zoning is accusing us of running a business out of my home. They are accusing us of running salvage transport, and salvage transport is run out of 1021 Oak Street in Copley by a man who is deceased right now, Jeffrey Teets. They are accusing us because I have a truck parked in my driveway that has on salvage transport. My husband works for that man. He did work for that man. And I keep calling. I had talked to Mr. Harricle on the phone, and he told me to talk to Lee Rackus. Other people told me to talk to Lee Rackus. I call, I want to talk to Lee Rackus, and all I get is this Christopher Gittinger, and he will not let me speak to Mrs. Rackus.
Mrs. Rackus, can you possibly comment on this and research this?
I'm not aware of it, other than, yeah, maybe I have to get the microphone. Sorry. I gotta
Okay,
steal the microphone
I
from me.
do have paperwork that,
Well, you do have in the township restrictions on parking commercial vehicles in residential districts. I don't know what the type of vehicle is, and it may not be able to be parked there. I don't know about the notices about the business. If you have, if there's a business listed there to that address, if there's any business listed to that address, then I'm thinking maybe it's more just the commercial vehicle parking.
but he keeps insisting on running a business there. And our vehicle,
Ma'am, if you
okay,
could please move the microphone.
Sorry.
Thank you.
our vehicle, it's a two-car rollback. But according to the paperwork that I've gotten sent to me, that went into effect in 1991. We live at that address since 1992. And there has been a truck, and Phil Ginder is aware of that. There has been a truck at our address since the time we moved in. We lived in the township 51 years. We lived in an apartment. A truck was parked at that address. Now a truck, and there's been numerous trucks over the years. I'm talking big Mack wreckers, 4-car rollbacks, 2-car rollbacks, pickup trucks, regular tow trucks. And now all of a sudden, somebody has a problem with this. I have no idea who. And the truck is in nobody's way, it's on my driveway. And this Mr. Gittinger told me, fill out this paperwork. I gave it to a contractor, he said, Kathy, this is for, if you're building something here. I'm like, I don't have any more room. Where am I gonna build it? I put on an extra garage, I put on an extra room out the back, I have a pool. Where am I gonna build the building? I don't know. Now,
Mrs. Rackus, could you please investigate this? And
I can investigate it, but I'm kind of thinking, and Attorney Gross can correct me if I'm wrong, I love to put you on the spot. If this is a zoning issue and it's a zoning violation, I can't relieve it. You as the board can't relieve it. The mayor can't relieve it. The avenue that you have to go through is the zoning hearing board. And they will adjudicate whether what's happening there is in conformity with the zoning, or they can give you relief from it, that's no guarantee, or it, may have to be addressed. The way zoning works is the zoning officer makes a determination, and the way to appeal his determination is to the zoning hearing board. Nobody in this room can give that relief. That's the way the law goes.
well, I got a thing from the district court now, because I guess he's taking me to district court. So maybe I just should get a lawyer and go to the district court. Because if this went into, if it was amended in 1991, this law that you can't park a truck there,
That's when it started.
that's when it started, that's when it was amended, and we're there since 1972. I was told back in the day, we're grandfathered in with this truck, and they left us alone till now. And this was back in 2007 they were after.
And that may be true, but I can't overturn his decision. This information that you're presenting to me, to the board tonight, is something that would have to go either before the district magistrate or before the zoning hearing board. Nobody here can overturn that. That's the way the law works. And I see he's nodding, so I'm not telling you something wrong. I mean, if you go to the magistrate and you present your case, that's a decision you can make, or you can file an appeal before the zoning hearing board to overturn Chris Gittinger's decision. But that's the process that has been established by the state law.
He just doesn't listen, he doesn't understand. He keeps insisting I'm running a business there, and I'm not.
Well, and that's why your avenue of appeal is there. That's why. If you disagree with what his determination is and he disagrees with what you're telling him, that's why there's an appeal process. That's why the zoning hearing board is there. I mean, I can make sure that you get that paperwork so that you can file the appeal. And I can talk to Chris, but again, it's unethical for me to say that I can overturn what he has determined. That's not the way the law works.
I understand that, but why wouldn't he ever let me talk to you?
Well, I'm there. My extension is 1134. You can call me anytime.
I called, I don't know how many times, and I get him. And you know what he told me the one time? He's very rude. He told me, just because you're old doesn't mean you can break the law.
Well, I wasn't
He's
there for
rude.
that conversation.
He
and,
is rude. I
don't
am
have that
old,
experience with
but
him.
I'll be damned. Come on.
Well, I can forward you the paperwork if that's what you want, but right here, I can't say that it's going to be, relieved or anything, because that's not appropriate. I can't do that. And again, the board can't do that.
So you cannot help me.
I didn't say that. I said I can give you the paperwork for
Oh,
you to file an appeal.
I have paperwork.
Well, then that's the process that you have to go. I'm not a lawyer.
That's the paperwork that's telling me, they want to know how many square feet I want to build, and come on. I'm not building anything. I'm not even, I don't have a business in my house. He's retired. All he does is,
please state your name and address, sir. Please state your name and address.
your name,
What did he say?
your name and address.
Bob Gansey, 3794 Dogwood Drive, Whitehall. It's for over 50 years, that address. All right, I got a story for you. I'm going to wake you all up, okay? I guess you can hear me because I raised my voice. 1968.
Oh, here we go.
Came home from Vietnam. Got discharged from the Marine Corps. Come home on a Sunday.
Semper Fi.
What?
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. Got home on Sunday. Monday, I went to work for my father's Esso station in Allentown. Phil knows the place. A couple of years later, I got married. We bought a home in the township where we live right now. The day we moved in that home, the very first day, I had a commercial vehicle in front of my house. Years later, we took a contract with the city of Allentown to do police towing. That's 24/7, 365. I had to have a truck home. I couldn't go to the shop at 3 o'clock in the morning and get a truck out. When they called me, you had 20 minutes to get there, all right? And we had 5 guys doing it, and I'm very proud to say we made the most money, myself and my employees. We did the best job. Now, we lived there 50 years. We had no problems with anyone. They come to me. Can I use your jumper cables? Can I use your torque wrench? There's the tools. Take what you want, bring it back when you're done. I have no problems with any of them. They have no problems with me. Somebody drops a dime on me that I'm running a business out of my house, and you come down on me like I'm some kind of criminal. They want to fine me $3,500 a week for parking my truck in my driveway. The tow bar is in my driveway. It's not sticking out in the street. The plows go down, the school buses, your township trucks. No problem. All of a sudden now, I'm Al Capone. They want to get rid of me, you know? I don't understand this. I just like one question. I don't know if it's legal. Maybe you guys can help me, or all of you. Do I have a right to know my accuser?
Yeah, who?
Do
somebody-
I have a right to know? Who the hell dropped this dime on me?
Yeah, who's moaning about my truck in the driveway?
Well, we at this point don't know who contacted Mr. Gittiger. It could
I
have-
don't know.
It could have just been our code enforcement officers driving around, because they routinely drive through the township
Well,
looking
that
for code violations.
schmuck over there told us somebody called.
How about, we're gonna have Mrs. Rackus research this, talk to Mr. Gittinger, and she can get you the appropriate paperwork if necessary.
Oh, I have 2 sets of it.
Well, I don't know what that is, ma'am. That may be the
Oh,
action from the
transport, right here.
Justice of the Peace,
Okay.
so. Let's try to work it out this way. Let's give Mrs.
Could you
Rack-
hear me?
Yeah, we heard you just fine.
Because I couldn't hear the people
We
back
hear you just
there.
fine. We're gonna let Mrs. Rackus
And
do her
I
part
even
to see if
have-
she can resolve this problem, and if she can't, she can certainly guide you on what the next step is.
That's my husband's 1090.
Well, let me ask you something.
Yes.
Be down to earth here. Okay, we're out in the street. We're turning out. Does this sound right, what's happening to me? You know, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
No, it doesn't.
okay.
But see, us old Marines, we take a
Okay,
lot-
oh, you were in the crotch.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
But all these
You don't hear that word too much, do you?
business was,
Oh, yet my tailor.
I even have a tie on tonight.
And
I
Phil,
even have a Marine tie on tonight. I got it all going on.
Phil, how's your son out in Indiana?
Okay,
Good.
going good.
Oh, and by the way, what we were telling you, this business,
they told us back in '07,
you might have the wrong idea.
we are grandfathered in.
I'm not saying this to be a wise guy to you, but your car gets in an accident and it's totaled. You have full coverage. That car is towed in. You go home, call your insurance company. Where's your car? They send an adjuster. He looks at it, he says, damages exceed value. They write it off, it's totaled. You get book on it. They pick that car up and take it down to Pennsburg. Big salvage lot. 700, I guess they have about 800 or 900 cars. That car, when it comes in, they take pictures of everything, the interior, the mileage, does it start, the whole deal. It goes on, they have 2 auctions a week. It's on the internet. That car might be sold to somebody in Nebraska. They have no way of getting that car from Pennsburg to Nebraska. They have to use somebody. Well, that's our customers, mostly out of Jersey. They call us, get them out, because after 3 days, they pay storage. We do not do general public towing. We take them to a lot up in Ironton. When we get a full load, 4 cars, they take them out and deliver them to where we're going. That's our business. I don't do, and I've turned many down, come to my house. I don't do it.
Understood, sir. Okay, we're gonna move on here, so we can keep this moving, or everyone else is gonna be here till midnight. But Mrs. Rackus will try to resolve
Okay,
your
well,
problem.
thank you for everything.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's fine.
Ken Snyder,
Due to the lateness of the evening, I will pass tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider.
We'll give you 3 minutes.
No, don't make any offers.
Don't encourage them.
We're okay, guys. Thank you.
Anthony Kopak. Mr. Kopak?
He just left. He left.
He just left. That's it? Okay. We can start our meeting.
Hello. Now it's working.
Yes, it worked.
I swear to God, it wasn't working.
Can I go? Mr. Kopak? Would you like to speak? Last chance.
yeah, I didn't realize you were in the men's room.
Please state your name and address.
Anthony Kopak, 3763 Dogwood Drive, Whitehall. 3763 Dogwood. Okay, well, I just find it unbelievable. You have missing money, and from what I gather, nobody's been charged with anything. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, law enforcement cannot charge anyone. They never caught them in the act.
But somebody was responsible for the money. I had a position that was responsible for the money.
Absolutely. And that's currently being investigated by law enforcement for the public officials not doing their fiduciary duty. So we are trying to pursue charges criminally against that public official for not doing their due diligence.
I mean, you're saying the money went like this and all that.
We have no way of knowing.
You have cameras everywhere. You would know somebody was pocketing money.
Sir, we had the Whitehall Police Department, the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office, county detectives, the FBI, you name it. We went to every law enforcement agency that we knew of. Investigations were open, and they were closed, inconclusive.
Well, see, as a normal taxpayer, citizen, I just find that unacceptable. You know, if the IRS comes to me and say, we're going to do an audit, you got to provide records.
So do I.
I just can't tell them, you know, I can't provide them. You know, you're just going to have to.
It's absolutely unacceptable. That's why we're continuing to pursue
And
things.
I wouldn't know anything about this if I didn't start coming to meetings, because I don't think anything's ever been written in the township newsletter about it.
Yes, this was in the press
It was in the press.
extensively.
I read a statement in January of 2021 of everything
yeah.
up to that date, all the way to the investigation.
Has it been in the township newsletter?
No, no,
Well,
it's
now
not.
that's something you send out to all your
It's in
residents.
the township minutes, and it was in the press.
Right,
It
well,
was covered in the press.
The Whitehall Copley Press, the Morning Call, Channel 69, they all covered it.
that doesn't mean everybody gets them
Understood, but-
publication, but you send out your newsletter to all your residents. Whether they choose to read it or not, that's a different story.
Well, I'm not defending, I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but the township newsletter is for other reasons.
Well,
And I understand what he's
that
getting
is
at.
news.
But that's a quarterly printing.
That's okay.
We wanted it out immediately as soon as we could get the statement out. I was president of the board at that time. I was not willing to sit on that information for 2 or 3 months until the next newsletter could be printed. I wanted that information out into the public immediately as soon as we were allowed to talk about it by law enforcement. And that's exactly what happened.
Well,
It was written immediately. It was read at the public meeting in January of 2021 here, and there were reporters in the room, and it was printed. I was not willing to sit on it. I wanted it out in the public.
well, it never reached me.
That's exactly what happened, sir.
And there was a vote of no confidence taken against that public official at the time.
Okay, well, let's move on. I believe when we left last week with Mechanicsville Road, you were talking about tightening the lanes up so the cars could turn into McDonald's. Yes. How are you attempting to get that done? Are you putting a designated turning lane in there? Or are you just hoping for, you know, people to use common sense?
Well, it's a reach, but we're looking for people to use common sense.
Okay,
That was, the lane changes and the dimension was suggested by PennDOT. It's their road, so they get to make the call. So they asked us to do that in conjunction with the widening.
Okay, but here you're relying on common sense, and that ain't gonna work.
Well, if you provide an area for people to get around a stopped vehicle looking to make a left-hand turn, and a quite impossible one at that, people should be able to use common sense and drive around that person if there's room to do so. And that's what the idea is.
Okay,
The same as having a wider shoulder. If somebody's turning left, you're allowed to go around them, overtake that vehicle.
and you keep talking about extending the sidewalk to tie in with the library. Okay, so when you extend that sidewalk and you get a foot of snow, who's responsible for clearing the snow on that sidewalk?
The owner of the property,
The Markowitz?
yes?
Well, he does a good job. He does all his front. Unlike most of the businesses there, don't take care of the sidewalk.
It's their frontage.
Okay, I didn't know it was gonna be turned over to PennDOT or not.
No, and even if it was, on PennDOT property, the homeowner is responsible, or the owner, not just the home, but any owner of that adjoining property is responsible for the sidewalk, and actually the curb too. PennDOT only maintains to the edge of the pavement, same as the township. Any deficiencies or any maintenance of the curb or the sidewalk is the legal responsibility of the adjoining owner.
Well, you know, when you go to some of these bigger cities, they have an area, it's called Don't Block the Box. Why wouldn't you maybe make a box there at that driveway for McDonald's that you don't block at certain hours? That so cars could turn in there unrestricted.
Right. PennDOT will not allow that because it'd be 3 lanes they'd have to block. And they don't feel comfortable with having somebody come out of that driveway across 3 lanes and may not be able to see a car going in the westbound direction. Right, if there's a car there or a different vehicle, you're asking a lot for people to stop 3 lanes of traffic to let somebody out of that driveway.
Well, no, there's hash marks there, you just don't
Well,
stop in that box, and that leaves.
we looked at that, PennDOT looked at that, they said no.
But PennDOT allowed the driveway to be there with a obstructed view to the west, and you're looking at a tree when you're trying to pull out of there. How is that acceptable?
PennDOT gave them the permit.
And then, another problem for the residents of Mickley Gardens there is, you're allowed to make a right turn on red from southbound 145 to go on Mechanicsville Road. So people pulling out of that development never get a break, there's always traffic coming, because you're allowed to make that right on red. The minute you think there's a break, dodging the school traffic, this and that, the traffic just keeps coming from 145 because it never stops because you're allowed to make it right on red there. Has that been ever explored to change that?
PennDOT put that in when they did their improvements and put the median in along PennDOT, along 145. They chose to widen that lane in order to get a lot of traffic off of MacArthur Road. That's their goal, is to get the traffic off of MacArthur where it wants to go. They look at Mechanicsville or other secondary roads as a secondary priority. Their big priority is MacArthur Road. Get the traffic off of there, get them off where they want to go, and in that case, they put the right turn on red, because that, as you well know, that's the high demand, especially in the morning, people going to the school and heading westbound for work, they're all going that way, and they're taking that right. So that's a PennDOT decision. That's something that's their road, both of their roads.
I know they're PennDOT roads, but
have no
it affects your
jurisdiction.
residents in the township.
Absolutely, but again, it's Mechanicsville is a PennDOT road. And if you're having problems trying to find a gap, I mean, you can certainly contact PennDOT. I can't do anything about that. I mean, that's the PennDOT permit process. That's what they want to have. Okay, I mean, I've even tried to get some extra green time for Mechanicsville. They won't allow it. They say, PennDOT is the 145 is their priority. And they're not going to give up any green time for a side road. So that's how protective they are of 145 and its function. And it doesn't function all that well.
And then I personally witnessed 2 school children trying to cross Mechanicsville last week. You think, we'll go back to common sense, you think any of them cars would stop to let these kids walk across to the high school property? Absolutely not. They had to wait for a break in traffic. So you go right back to the crosswalk scenario. which, do we not care about, the children trying to cross that street?
I certainly do.
Well, you wouldn't let them just, try to pick an open spot in traffic at 8 in the morning to get across? Nobody stopped, not one car.
I'm probably not doing 15 miles an hour either.
Well, no, that's true too, but because nobody enforces it. All right, let's call it a night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Public hearings and voting on resolutions. At the request of Mr. Clark, resolution number 3215 has been tabled. Resolution number 3216, a resolution requesting a Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Commonwealth Finance Authority local share account, Northampton and Lehigh Counties grant for the historic Mickley Pride and Farm renovation Phase 3. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, Bishop.
Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I won. We've been promised a comprehensive plan for the Mickley Pride and Farm since July or August. And this board, to my knowledge, still doesn't have a comprehensive plan. We ask for it every month. I'm not saying I'm against anything down there. I think the community garden and all that, I think that's a wonderful thing. I think it's a total waste of taxpayer money on the 1835 house to do anything with that. The older home, the smaller home, yes, that has value. That was built in the 1700s. That's just my personal opinion down there. But I think it's time this board sees the comprehensive plan. This board has been very generous with giving permission to go out for the grants and supporting the grants and everything else, but we've been promised a comprehensive plan. What are the goals down there? What's the end? When are we at the end? How long? Whatever. What kind of total costs are gonna go in down there and everything else? It's one thing, I know everybody looks at this and said, oh, this is grant money, it's a free handout. Well, number one, it's not. It's taxpayer money, grant money. Taxpayers put that grant money out there. So it's not free money. There's a responsibility here to come up with some figures. And I believe this board deserves them. We've asked for them.
You're talking about the group moving forward. Is that what
I'm
you're
talking about, we're taking taxpayer money and putting it in down there, grant money. What's the final goal? What's the end game? What's the dollar amount? What will the building be used for? Does the committee have minutes that we kind of know where it's heading down there? Or is this just one or two people sashaying through, making all of this? This board knows nothing of the plans for down there. Does anybody agree with me here?
I agree. I mean, ultimately, what's the purpose of it gonna be? What purpose is it gonna serve? Who's gonna maintain it? I mean.
Who's to be using it? Are there gonna be
Right.
trails? Are there gonna be parking? We know the garden, and the garden's a wonderful thing. It's absolutely a wonderful thing. People are growing fruits and vegetables, and they're getting to the right people, in the chains and everything. We're not questioning any of this. What we're questioning is we were promised there would be a comprehensive plan telling this board kind of what the end game is down there. And that was back in July or August, and I haven't seen anything unless I didn't get it in my packets.
No, you have not, and that's reasonable.
I'm not making accusations or anything else.
No,
I'm
I
just
hear
saying
you.
this board should be entitled to that kind of information, as should the residents. It's public money.
Can I make a quick comment?
Grants are public money. They're taxpayer money. It's not a free handout. Somebody had to put that money there. I know the government writes checks. They're kiting checks all the time and writing them for money they don't have, but still, it's public funded money. And the public needs to know what's going on down there.
You're right, Phil.
Well, every month I hear I'm right.
You're
Every
right.
month I've heard I'm right since July or August. Now, it's time to get that piece of paper together. There's supposedly a committee there, right?
Yes.
Then they should have that they should have that by now. That should be able to be emailed tomorrow morning. I gotta believe, going out for all these grants, and there's a supposed committee there, there had to be something put on paper somewhere along the line what the final game is down there. I would have to believe that.
The final game is that we put that, both buildings, one, the historic building, and the second bigger and newer building, I'm sure is going to be able to be put to functions that are going to be helpful
Like
to
what?
us.
What's on the paper?
WTICTA is looking for a place to do I'm trying to remember the word I'm looking for. Something to get small businesses started. That's one thing. Two, I think we could turn this into an area that we would have recreation, potentially down there. We don't have,
I think when we bought it, it was made for passive recreation.
well,
Be careful. When we bought it, the goal was for passive recreation. It was not to be developed into any high output, high energy.
no, I don't think it
Let's
would
pack
be.
6,000 people down there. It was for passive recreation when we bought it. That was the goal. I was on the board here at that time, and I supported buying it.
And the big house was excised from the rest of the grant because they didn't want to deal with that.
The big house.
As I understand.
But this is asking for money for the big house. This grant
It is.
we're going, well, then it couldn't have been excised from.
Well, it was not, it was excised from that specific grant.
Which grant?
The one that we used to buy the entire Priden farm down there.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about these current grants.
So,
Well, I know, I'm just saying.
this board deserves a legible, where we're headed in the future down there, what kind of dollar amount we think we're gonna finish at, and what are gonna be some of these final uses.
At this
And
point,
Mike, not to cut you short, but this rambling through, trying to justify, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some type of written document that this is where there's a committee there, right? This is where that committee is heading, by committee. That's what I'm looking for. And I think I'm justified, and the public is justified in seeing that. That's my point.
you're.
So I don't wanna get into
you're
one of these
entitled-
rambling deals. We do that every month and nothing happens anyway.
You're entitled to that. And I
And not
haven't
just
done-
me,
and I
the
haven't-
public.
and I
And
haven't-
every commissioner up here on this board is entitled to
And I
that.
haven't done that.
No, you haven't, Mike.
You're right.
Let us move on.
Say something really quick.
Go ahead, Mr. Fisher.
I spoke with Commissioner Warren a little bit before the meeting. He was unable to attend tonight. One of the things I strongly encouraged him to do, he mentioned that certain groups, such as like WTICTA and Rotary, may be interested in using the facility and whatnot, and I strongly encouraged him to actually bring these groups and these interest groups who would be interested in the property, to bring them to a commissioner's meeting to actually demonstrate that interest. So I think that's something that could be done. I mean, this is a good forum to do it, and if the interest of the people is there, I think we should come out, I think we should see it. So, that's all I have to say.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the floor?
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Come up, sir. Please say your name and address.
Sam Pantoni, 3368.
Yeah, if you could please speak in.
I'll speak
into the
Sorry.
mic, I'm sorry.
Sam Pantoni, 3368 South 3rd Street, Whitehall, PA. How much money is this grant that we're giving to this project?
The grant
That's my
that-
only question.
The grant they're asking for now is for $147,500.
And how much did we initially put into the property?
I don't know the exact number when we bought it. I do not remember the exact.
There's been numerous grants. This
No,
is
not the grant. He wants to know how much.
How much
paid
we
for
purchased the property for?
the
Jack, do
total-
you remember? I don't remember without.
Growing Greener grant, I think, or some kind of
county funding.
Yeah, a lot of it was,
Okay.
it wasn't township money all used in it.
Okay, just, that's all I wanted to know,
Yeah.
was the amount. Because you keep saying grant, I'm trying to put a
Yeah, and there
dollar
were
amount on.
two previous grants approved. One, I think, was for $59,634, and there was another grant applied for, and we received it for $76,375. You know, and they were to do roofing and, you know.
For the barn that's there, is that
No,
what you're
nothing
talking
for the barn yet.
The
Okay.
barn's not even being touched.
No, we're
Okay.
just touching the two houses at this point. And some of this grant money was used for stuff for the garden, you know, to get things going, fencing down there in the shed and, you know, things like that,
Okay,
so.
thank you. I just wanted to clear the dollar.
Yeah,
amount.
no, that's
Sorry.
right.
Any more comments from the floor? Please come forward. Name, rank, and serial number, please.
Rob Pelagian, 415 Oakwood Drive. I just noticed Pride and Farm was purchased for $310,000. So I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for anything else. But as a member of the Planning Commission, when the adjoining Whitehall Farms property came in, and there was a request from the Recreation Commission about having a connection, which the Board of Commissioners approved. One of the questions that we ask is, where's this going to go? Because there's no plan for what's happening at this property. And it sounds like we still don't have anything, and that's been in front of the, when did that first, Frank, I'm going to defer to Frank, when did they first bring the Whitehall Farms in front of the Planning Commission? Fall, you know, it's over a year. I mean, I understand Mr. Ginder's frustrations, and I'm frustrated too, as a citizen and a taxpayer. I mean, there's no parking down there. How are you going to make this building accessible? How are you going to make the property accessible? I mean, how much more money do we have to pour down this place? I'm sorry, you know, I'm a big history nut. You guys know it. You two in particular saw it. Not everything that's old can be saved. And I'm really trying to find out what the end game is. I mean, I keep hearing, well, maybe we're going to have photos taken. I remember that was one thing that was brought up. We're going to have photos taken for wedding receptions. You know, seriously, come on. What is the end game with this? You know,
Rob,
anybody?
The thing about the weddings was from quite some time ago. The presumption was that the barn would be rebuilt.
But that's not, it's pulled out of this, though. That's not part of this.
Completely out of it.
And from what I understand, it's, you blow on it, it's going to fall over. I mean,
What's going to blow over?
this
What's
barn,
gonna
this barn. I mean, what's going on?
I don't think that's true at all. We took down one of the, I guess they'd be called gables, the peaks there, because that was a problem.
I just see this as just being a boondoggle. I really do. This is my opinion. Nothing's been done to create a master plan. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Ginder. It's taxpayer money. Sure, it's a grant, but ultimately we all have to pay for it. We're writing checks for debts that we're never going to pay, and we all know it. But somebody's got to say no at some point. This is ridiculous, especially pouring money in that place.
The house is firm. Otherwise, I would have been happy to tear it down. I couldn't make myself believe that we should pull that down after I looked at that for a long time.
Any more comments?
Question?
Please come up.
This ties into the comprehensive recreation plan. It really does.
Please state your name and address. Mr.
Ken Snyder, 4272 Abigail Lane. We started this comprehensive plan for recreation, Mike, and we were supposed to meet several times. I think the last time we met was in August. This is in that committee, one of the things that I proposed was that we would evaluate the properties we have, find out what assets are an asset, how much it's costing us, and liquidate some assets that maybe we don't really need. This grant is $140,000 into something that may find itself being torn down. It's imperative that the recreation comprehensive plan gets off the dime. It's been quite some time.
You're correct, and I've been an impediment in that.
don't want to go down the road, but yeah, I'm on the committee. I think you're on the committee. All these questions that keep coming up come back to that there's no plan. And on the agenda, I said budget and plan. And we'll save that for another day, but that's the problem we have. There's no plan. And when we start something, it never gets finished. Mr. Ginder talked in terms that the rails, the trails, we don't have our gates across, okay? That would be something that where people are using it every freaking day on a regular basis, that you would get that accomplished with the grant as compared to the Pryden Farm. I used to deliver newspapers down there when I was a kid. I've probably been there more time than you guys been. But the bottom line is, we have to get the plan together so we know whether it's valid. This does not sound like a valid thing we should be doing at this point in time. And that's
Mr.
just,
Schneider.
yes.
Almost every month for, I can't even tell you how many months, I've asked the same question. Where are we at on the rec comprehensive plan? I get the same excuse every month.
So.
I didn't get anything, it's just, we kick the can down the road.
I've been
And-
coming here since January, and here's my conclusion. We have a lame duck for the next 14 months, and I just accept that's what we got, because it's not going to change, unless someone can tell me how. Because every month's the same thing, a meeting that should have started at 7 and been out of here by 8. It's the same stuff we talk about. So I've looked at it, and I just come to the conclusion, what we got, we got. And I've talked to some of you guys about terms and how they go, and so all this good stuff. But Mike, it's the same principle. You know what's written on the wall. You either got to do it or you don't. And we got 14 more months as a resident to look at the situation, no different than just happened in our last elections. That's the purpose of it, and we live by it. But I'm going to ask you that since you are there and you are the mayor, that please give it your best shot over the next 14 months to do what's right for our community, because it's not happening. That's all. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, with that being said, please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
I'm gonna vote no, until we get the right, information here. Bring it back next month with the right information, but at this point, no, since I don't have the information.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Fisher?
I'm still going to vote aye, but I agree with Phil's sentiments. We need a plan. So aye.
Commissioner Dia?
Thought about this a little bit, and I'm just going to vote to abstain at this point, because I feel like I'm not ready to vote against it or for it. There has to be a plan for me to make a decision on this.
And President Marks?
I'm going to vote no, and the reason why I'm voting no is I'm tired of the can getting kicked down the road. We need, when we ask for things, we do it politely, civilly, and at this point, it's becoming unacceptable. I mean, things are not done in a timely manner here, and it's unacceptable. This is public money. We are held accountable. It's a lot of money. And even though this is state money, this is still public money. I pay taxes, we all pay taxes. We have to be accountable. There has to be a plan, there has to be a mission statement. Moving forward, I will not support any agenda until people do their due diligence. That's all I have to say. No.
I had that, okay.
Okay.
Motion fails to pass with an even vote and an abstention, and that fellow back there has his hand up.
Sir,
No, you have to come up.
please come forward.
Just quick.
Yes.
I was here last week.
Please, please state your name and address.
Leodin Tavares, 812 Maryland Street. I was here last week. I came here by mistake. But I hear Phil
Mr. Guinness.
talk about this last week, and he asked for something to happen. That was last week.
Last month.
Nah, on Monday.
Yeah.
Monday. I was here on Monday.
Last week.
Last
I'm sorry.
Monday, I was here, and you asked for the same thing.
Okay.
And you asked for something to come, and nothing come. It's been 1 week past, and nothing happened. And like you guys say, it's our money that is there, and they're using it for something that it's no clue what is going to happen to that right now. I don't understand why something getting built and nobody have a clue what is going to happen in that place. That's the only thing that I have to say.
That's why I questioned it.
All right?
Thank you, sir. good? Resolution number 3217, a resolution conditionally approving the minor subdivision of 812 Maryland Street. Respect, Ludin Tavares and Sagario Delgado and John and Helen Konopelski, index number 2004-22A. Do I have a motion? I apologize. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Can you please poll the board?
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Attia,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginger,
Yes.
President Marks.
Yes.
Resolution passes 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Once again, I apologize for the names. I'm terrible with names. Resolution. Thank you. Resolution number 3218. A resolution conditionally approving the minor subdivision of J. Voice and M. Hettinger located at 3014 Washington Street, index 2009-22A. Do I have a motion?
I'll move Fisher.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? That being said, please poll the board.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Attia,
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Ginger,
Yes.
and President Marks.
Yes.
Resolution passes 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3219. Thank you for coming. Resolution number 3219, a resolution conditionally approving the minor subdivision / lot line adjustment plans of Egypt United Church of Christ located at 4129 South Church Street and 4418 Main Street, index number 1988-21. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Clark, everything is,
Everything's in order.
okay. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Attia,
Yes.
President Marks.
Yes.
Resolution passes 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Other, a motion to approve the appointment of Michael Hoffman to serve on the Whitehall Township Civil Service Commission as an alternate, term expiring December 31st, 2026. Do I have a motion?
I'll move Fisher.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments?
Yes, I just want to say I was very impressed with Mr. Hoffman when we met him last week, and I look forward to this vote. I would like this board to vote favorably in his honor. Best way to phrase it.
Please poll the board.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Attia,
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Ginger,
Yes.
and President Marks.
Yes.
Motion passes 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion number 2, to approve the appointment of Sean Ziller to serve on the Whitehall Township Planning Commission as an alternate, term expiring December 31st, 2026. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Attia,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
President Marks.
Yes.
Motion passes 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, under other, discussion item, Haven Ridge Condominium Association, we covered that. So we're going to move on to reports of public officials. I will start with Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, President Marks. So I got a few things to say quick. I just want to thank all the veterans and everyone who served in our township. It is definitely humbling to work with you guys, and especially our two veterans on the board. It's a good time to say you guys are an inspiration, so keep it up. Three.
No.
Andy,
Yeah,
oh,
Frank and
and Andy, I'm sorry. Second question is kind of a question. I want to direct this towards Jack Myers. And it would be for Tina Corin too, but that extra, the money from the state, I guess she has applied for that? There was the outstanding money from the state?
Yeah, Tina had,
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there, I know that she applied for the stuff on behalf of the treasurer's office. Was there any other monies in there that we could apply for?
she applied for it all.
Okay, she did.
Yeah, almost
Okay.
everything was the tax office,
Okay.
but those that weren't,
Okay.
she put in for those.
So just to fill everyone in, there is unclaimed money from the state, and this was pointed out to me by a resident, and this information was given to me and then was passed along to the administration. My other question is there a mechanism going forward that we can keep an eye on this in case there is any other unclaimed money that we can claim it as we comes up?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now the good stuff, the actual good stuff. I just want to say we had two great events in the township this last month. We had the e-cycling event over at the middle school that was put on by the Environmental Advisory Committee. I want to thank the EAC, I want to thank County Commissioner Antonio Pineda, and I want to thank the mayor for coming out and helping organize this and help keep it running. It was very successful. I think we do need to debate if we want to have one or two a year. I know this was our second one. The first one got rained out in the spring, so it was a good turnout. We had two scout troops show up. It was really great to see the scouts there working. We're definitely trying to forge a much tighter relationship with the scouts in the township. This was just a great event for them to come out. And so if I may direct this question to the mayor, do we know how much material we collected at the recycling event?
The total between the two of them was about $56,000.
Goodness, okay.
We made more money the first time around, but it was close.
Okay, good. Second thing I want to bring up is, I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was an Adopt a Highway down on Fullerton Avenue. That was also done by the EAC, and I also want to thank the mayor and County Commissioner Pineda who came out for that. We collected, God, probably a few dozen bags of garbage. We worked on the, we're the interchange by 22. We pulled up all kinds of crap. We found bed frames and tires, and we got a lot of stuff. So I can honestly say it feels good to be a commissioner who's actually cleaning up my community. So it feels good. But it's for everyone who's still here and for everything getting into the minutes, you know, we are always looking for people to help literally pick up trash. So, you know, keep an eye on these events. We really do need these help. This really is a community-based thing to literally keep the township clean. So, going forward, we'd love to see you out there. So that's all I've got, and I'll hand it back to President Marks.
Chuck, if I can just add,
Yeah.
I think it was about 28 or 29 big bags, and it went well.
They were quite substantial bags. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Attia?
Just want to thank Mrs. Rackus for putting the video presentation together. Again, it was great. I always enjoy watching that. I was reflecting on watching that video because coming into the meeting and leaving the house, I had about an hour at home between my job and coming here. And my 3-year-old gave me the puppy face, like, oh, you got to go back to work again. But it just, you know, watching that video gives you some perspective because, you know, those people made the ultimate sacrifice, and me coming to a Board of Commissioners meeting is not all that serious. So I just wanted to thank the veterans in the room as well as those listening. Last week, just wanted to touch real quick. Some of you may have heard in the beginning, Commissioner Roman last week had a medical emergency here. And I just, again, some perspective, I guess, is the theme of the message today. We disagree a lot up here at times. People that come up here and speak disagree, and we have our moments. But it was nice to see, not that happened, but to see everybody come together to try to help during that situation. So I just want to thank everybody that was here, as well as our emergency response team that came in to help Commissioner Roman, and thoughts go out to him and his family. That's all I have.
Mr. Gander?
Yeah, Mayor, when is the Rec Commission going to meet, Rec Commission Comprehensive Plan Committee going to meet again? Do you have any idea when you're going to start that again?
The middle of December, and I'll have have the work we began in the past. We'll get that together, and I believe we can reach the goal of having that ready for January, middle of January, and we'll be working with PCED. They have to approve the language and whatever we do to get the, what's the name of it? I'm looking for some help. The
Request for proposal.
request for proposal. Who said that? Thank you. Okay.
The
At that
members,
point,
the membership of that committee, can the members that we have be emailed on who's all on that committee?
yes, I thought I had.
Did you ever get an email, Ken, with who's all on that committee?
No, we got a spreadsheet, but the last one, there was a little lower attendance than the first one.
Yeah, can we get
Yeah.
who's ever on that committee, a list of who's all supposed to be on there?
I'm just gonna piggyback off that, if it's possible, because it's been several months since we've met. Maybe just, I guess the question is there still room for others to join that
Yes.
committee? Because, okay.
Absolutely.
Because some of those that were on it might not even,
They're not there anymore.
might not jump back on yet, just because it's been a while, so.
Anything new with the land appraisal up at Columbia and MacArthur? Where are we at with that?
Probably 3 weeks away.
3 weeks away?
I just talked to him, the guy 2 weeks ago, and, we were just clarifying things, so it should be in 3 weeks, we should get that.
Now, we met in June with, I'm going to call him the head of Centronia Ambulance, the director there. We met in June. I believe it was Tom, Flonick, or Joe, and myself, and the mayor. And he had mentioned we were going to start getting monthly, quarterly statistics, which we have the last 2 months. And he was going to come and talk to this Board of Commissioners at a public meeting. He was willing to do that and talk about some of the new things they're doing and things they can do in the ambulance on the ride to the hospital now. And that's been left go now for about 6, 7 months. Maybe in January, he could come before us and tell us where Centronia is at and what they're doing for our community and what's the new, latest and greatest. So that people have a knowledge of what your ambulance service is capable of doing for you. Next one. Has the emergency declaration for COVID been rescinded in this township? You declared it. Has it been rescinded?
I have not made that. I didn't rescind it.
It's probably about time to rescind it, I would think. Not rescind it out. Get rid of it. I don't think we need it anymore, do we?
I think probably not. I'll tell you, though, that we still have people in the building now that are not here because they have COVID again.
There is some COVID around yet and stuff, but my question is this emergency declaration that we had to do at that time.
I will rescind it.
It's probably time to clean that up now because we're back to meeting in this building and doing things back to normal and these are things that should be done.
Jack, would you like to comment on that?
No,
Or Jack?
which Jack?
Two Jacks. Pick a Jack. Pick a
I
Jack.
just was looking to Mr. Myers to make sure that there was no funding associated with there being an emergency. But before it is rescinded, I would like us to confirm that there's no.
Yes, please.
That there's no funding that we would be.
Yeah, if you gentlemen could research that and get back to us with that.
But it's just a matter of cleaning things up a little bit, that things don't just lay around here. Next question. The Parkway and the Environmental Committee Management Plan was to be separate from the Rec Comprehensive Plan for up in the Parkway. Where are we at with that?
I don't think we have organized anything for the park.
Because Scott Cope was willing to lead the effort, according to my notes. Yes, Charles?
So that is still under discussion. It is separate from the rec plan. They are still in the very preliminary stages of it. And this plan for the parkway, at the moment, should not be connected to the rec plan.
No, it shouldn't.
This is two separate things. They're still learning, they weren't running this independently, and they're gonna, yeah, this is, it's still preliminary.
Is there a committee working on it?
Yes. It is the EAC. The EAC is working on it.
Yeah. Is Scott involved? Is Scott helping you? Yeah,
Yes,
he's a gem.
He's there,
He
yeah.
knows a lot.
He's the guy we need on it, so.
You don't want to lose him. Last one, there's more here. I had 36 lines here. That's just how this stuff carries month to month. The Waticta minutes we got. Thank you. But we have no financials for that authority. I think we should be able to see a set of financials for the Whitehall Township Industrial Development Authority. We used to get financials all the time on that authority. And I asked for those the last 2 months. We got minutes, but we don't have the financials. So we have no idea. And, you know, we're putting money in the budget to help support them and let them go with their goal and mission, which is fine. That's what it's all about and stuff, but it's just nice to know the financials. I think this board, since we hold the purse strings, I think we should have that ability.
I'll deal with that.
Oh, one more thing. Tomorrow night, the rail trail is meeting in the community room. Will the front door be open?